Hi everyone, my name is Anastasia, Mr. Nice Guy on the social media, and welcome to my YouTube channel where we talk about fashion, the history, the industry, the trends, and more. I'm happy to have you here. Okay, today I would like to talk to you about Fall-Winter 2021 trends. And I know that I'm kind of late and a lot of people already did these videos, and I already did posts about this on my Instagram, and I believe I also did something on my TikTok too. But I thought I would kind of follow a slightly different approach to this video. So today we'll talk about general tropes or macro trends, about the colors, and about the accessories, shoes and outerwear. Let's start with the general tropes or the macro trends. In order to understand where the micro trends are coming from, or why a particular item is certainly very popular, it's generally kind of important and very useful to look at the macro trends that are going on, because macro trends always last more than one season. They usually transfer into the next season, kind of still living the third season after this and dying out the fourth season after this. So that means that if you're nailing a particular macro trend, you will be able to wear this thing and not look old-fashioned for like 2 years afterwards. I'm not talking about timeless pieces or whether you like these items in general, just about the idea of a trend or a concept of a trend. The first macro trend is of course the preppy aesthetic. Thanks to the popularity of like all the academia aesthetics on the TikTok, and we just cannot debate anymore with the fact that TikTok does have a huge influence on the fashion industry already now at this point. Also Gossip Girl reboot and re-emerging popularity of teen comedies of the 90s, such as Clueless, She's All That, Mean Girls, you know the deal. So the micro trends that fit in this macro trend are American school style bombers, tennis skirts, plaid mini skirts, especially if they are matched with the cropped little plaid blazers, like everything that has university emblematic stuff on it or just the university name on it. Also headbands, blazers and, well, button downs, of course. The second macro trend is 2000s. Well, we had 90s before and now we moved to this next step, because fashion kinda do work in the circles and we are basically going through the decades, because 20th century resembled a lot of fashion trends that emerged earlier through the centuries. That's a topic for the whole other video. So the micro trends that fit in these macro trends of the 2000s are of course low-rise jeans and low-rise pants, low-rise skirts like this fall especially, then scarf tops, butterflies everywhere, cardigans with the fur collars, ultra mini lengths on skirts and shorts, lots of cutouts, open body, and generally sexualized outlook. As many designers have referred to it, that's the after-pandemic new sexy. Anyway, the next macro trend is being outside. Generally doing outside activities like hiking, skiing, snowboarding, doing yoga outside, all this jazz. So basically we see lots of skiing gear or hiking gear inspired jackets, boots, like backpacks, bombers, which is also a jacket, but never mind, pants, all of that. I think I would also put the catsuits into this category, because I feel that they are partially became popular because the emerging popularity of yoga, and in particular yoga outside, so I'll put it in here as well. So the next general trend is, I took it from my grandpa, from my grandma, from my dad, basically the nostalgia for our child years. The most popular within the moment are the grandpa sweaters and the dad sneakers. The grandma vest was extremely popular last season, but because of the preppy aesthetic, it will also emerge and last through some seasons ahead. And I feel like grandma cardigan is already basically a staple, and it's not leaving us, not at all. And also very ripped knits, like I take it from the very old box, somewhere in my grandma's house, and it looks like it was distressed and eaten by insects, and yeah, slightly grungy but also kind of dated, knitted things. The last macro trend, well, I name it being heavy on materials, and I mean quite an obsession of designers with three particular materials, which are knitwear, leather, and sparkles. Well, leather and knitwear always come back by fall, but now they're like extreme. If we're talking about leather, it's not just your average aviator leather jacket, no. We're talking leggings, we're talking pants, we're talking skirts, we're talking dresses, we're talking blazers, and the trendiest piece is a leather coat or a leather trench coat. And if we're talking about knitwear, it's not just your average sweater. It's a full-on maxi knitted dress or a knitted set, even wearing knitted skirts and knitted pants, not only as part of a set, but on their own as well. And as for the sparkle, they also come back every year, but they usually emerge somewhere closer to the New Year season. But this year they are already everywhere, and supposed to be worn not for the night fashion, not for the evening fashion, but for the day fashion, styled with the black tights, combat boots, and a huge oversized bomber, which is kind of a cute look. I won't lie, I like it. Anyway, now we are moving to the second part, which is colors. And here we also see such macro trend as, all in all, bold, vibrant colors, which came with us from the summer season. This desire of going out, which kinda is associated with the summer, is what the industry tries to prolongate, hence why this macro trend. The number one color which was brought from the summer with us is a Bottega green. I'm joking, it's not called a Bottega green, but Bottega basically advertised this color. It's this kind of green, and I believe it is called the mint green correctly. If you don't like to refer to this mint green, you can also check out like the jelly bean green, which is slightly darker and colder, and a classic green, slightly lighter and warmer. As for the blues, we have a Mykonos blue, which is a beautiful royal deep color, and a spring lake blue, which is cold undertone, rather lighter shade of blue. It's like a dirty sky, I call it anyway, and it's very cool. A bright marigold orange is everywhere right now. I believe that Zara is going strong with advertising this one in particular. Illuminating yellow, of course, since it's one of the colors of the year named by Pantone. And finally, fuchsia fedora, which is bright magenta pink, and whirl red, which is a very like deep fiery shade of red. Ooh, and lilac. I completely forgot about lilac. Lilac is huge, and lots of designers showcase like a total lilac looks. On the more neutral side, to offset these brights, or if you are not the bold color person in general, we have first and foremost brown. Brown has been going strong for already a couple of seasons, and in this season we are talking particularly about the shade called root beer, which is a very deep, beautiful chocolate color. Then we have an olive branch, which also is very beautiful, cold shade of lighter green. Ultimate gray, again, of course, it's one of the colors of the year. Basically, yeah, the second one. There are only two colors of the year. Soybean beige, which is also a cool toned beigey, lighter beigey color. A little bit dirty if you ask me. And coconut cream, which one of the shades of the off-white. The last part for today is accessories and outerwear. Okay, let's start with the outerwear. First and foremost, bold coats. Bold with the colors magenta pink, mint green, Mykonos blue, red, everything bright, and everything bold with the textures. They can be leather, they can be fur, they can be fur, they can be teddy coats, like you name it. And well, again, faux fur is also huge this year. Almost each and every designer showcased something of a faux fur, And yeah, you can go as huge as the like floor length coat, or go with the shorter version, which is a jacket. And especially leopard coats. We have seen lots of leopard coats, and also quilted material. Like, it can be a cape, it can be a bomber jacket, it can be an elongated coat, vest as well. And if you're willing to experiment, you can go a little bit further and try like dresses or shorts. I really love how these sets of shorts look with the bombers or with the vest. Okay, next, shoes. First and foremost, knee-high boots. They are everywhere, and they can literally be any kind of a knee-high boot. A riding boot, a chunky sole boot, a cowboy boot, a slouchy boot. Whatever style you prefer, if they're knee-high length, you're on trend. Next are loafers and Oxford boots. Well, as I said, preppy is going strong, so these types of shoes are as well. Chunky platform, and I mean like really chunky. I'm talking this chunk. They can be on your boots again, on your Mary Janes, or the loafers. I've seen very cute loafers as well. Also fur and shearling, because they are the trends in the outerwear and in the clothing. They're also coming to the shoes, coming down to the shoes. I should say they can be on your Birkenstock, they can be on your sandals, on your mules, on your boots, whatever. You can go as far as the Miu Miu knee-high length, like huge moon-style boots. They're a little bit crazy, but I suppose they are very warm. And the last for the shoes are clogs. I think because they're kind of in between of the more classy styled mules and the Crocs, which were huge this summer again and which are very comfortable. So here we have a trend of clogs. Okay, bags. I'll start with the one I like the most, which are tote bags that look a little bit like paper bags, which I think is a very cute idea. And that takes us to the trend of generally big bags, like the bigger the better. They can be crossbody, they can be totes, they can be shoppers, whatever, if they're XXL size. And again, as well as they are coming for the shoes, the materials are coming for the bags as well. Fur bags, shearling bags, and sparkly ones. And I thought I would also mention a couple more of accessories. First, headscarves, once again, especially in like a quilted material or in leather material. Then caps, same distressed knit as your sweater, but we're taking it to the scarves as well. And also elbow length mittens, like we had gloves last season, and this season we're going with the mittens. Okay, that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video and found out a little bit more about the current macro trends of the fashion industry. And if you like this video, I would really appreciate you liking and subscribing to my channel. And if you are interested in seeing more content made by me, please check out my Instagram or TikTok, where I post daily. And other than that, I'll see you next week. Nice style, everybody!